Fever's playoff run shows they can win without Caitlin Clark, yet her absence casts shadow inside her. When CeCe got injured for the first time, she knew she had to step off. This left Indy to push forward with the roster they had. But as the Fever says, the next woman stands up. Kelsey Mitchell did. She shared the motto once the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles used during their Super Bowl winning season: all we got, all we need. Ever since, the Fever never stopped until a playoff berth was secured. When Robin Lundberg learned about the Fever's playoff berth and Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury, he couldn't help but offer his perspective. What's better than his own YouTube channel? So he uploaded a new video on September 8th wherein he shared, "So you know, the Fever are locked into at least the 7th seed now, which right now would be the Las Vegas Aces in the first round if things held the way they are, and you know, you give them in a short series, do they have a chance perhaps? Well, that's huge." When Indy started off this season, they were predicted to be a championship contender. The 2024 Rookie of the Year Caitlin Clark led the squad, coached by Stephanie White, who envisioned a win. But as the season unfolded, the hopes began to shatter. Not only was CeCe limited to just 13 games throughout the season, but the injury list was never-ending. At first it was CeCe, then Sid and Sophie. Shortly after, CeCe was out again due to a left groin injury. While she played a couple of games before she could play the historic All-Star game with Team Clark, she was out on July 15th. Then she never came back, and just 3 days ago it was officially confirmed she was out for the season. But through it all, the Fever squad never lost hope. As Robin puts it better, but the Fever season continued. Like so, to make it through all that is a testament to everybody on that squad, everybody in the locker room, the culture that they've built. And again, the head coach and the coaching staff. And then the Stars. They went on to first defeat the Sky and then the Mystics. But the real statement came in a 94-65 rout of Washington, where 5 players scored in double figures. And they are back in the postseason for a second straight year, marking their first set of consecutive playoff trips since the franchise's remarkable 12-year streak from 2005 through 2016. So, even with 5 players sidelined, Indy battled its way to a 23-20 record, a reminder that resilience never comes easy. And a reminder of exactly why Robin called them heavy underdogs. The Fever kept pushing forward under Stephanie White's mantra of taking it one game at a time. However, from the moment she took over, the head coach seemed prepared, building a roster designed to ease the pressure on her stars. So when Caitlin Clark went down for the first time, she already had a plan in place. That plan was to lean on Sydney Colson at point guard with Sophie Cunningham as her backup. But fate intervened, and both players suffered injuries in a matchup against the Sun before the approach could take shape fully. With the roster stretched thin, the Fever turned to Ari McDonald. Signed on a hardship contract, McDonald wasted no time proving her value. Eager to contribute, she studied film, adapted quickly, and seamlessly found her role within the team. It was a lot of film sessions by myself, just re-watching stuff, and a lot of film with assistant coach Austin Kelly just asking questions, so I was trying to just be a sponge these last couple of days, and I think that's helped me tonight, she shared after her first ever game with the Fever. And ever since, there was no slowing down. Indy even went on a winning streak, and how could you forget the Commissioner's Cup title win against the league's top team, the Minnesota Lynx? But then CeCe came back and Ari had to go. Though the Indiana Fever standout didn't get to play much and was sidelined again, this time DeWanna Borna was absent from the roster too. Personal reasons, that's exactly what her status read at the time. Soon she was waived off and Ari was back on a permanent contract. Later CeCe also made a comeback, but adversities didn't end. In just 1 month CeCe got injured twice. Sydney Colson, Ari McDonald, and Sophie Cunningham too went down with season-ending injuries. Just as fans began to feel some momentum even from the players signed on hardship contracts, Chloe Bibby, later brought on full-time, was sidelined with a knee injury that ended her season. Soon after came the bigger blow. Caitlin Clark, despite holding out hope for a comeback, was officially ruled out for the rest of the year. So this was how the Fever's run has been throughout the season. But what kept them strong was being together. And that was really our mindset. We never doubted ourselves. We never doubted that we could be in the playoffs even if things looked like it got harder for us. It was about sticking together, Aaliyah added. And yes, they never looked back until a playoff berth was clinched. The roster, sometimes as short as 8 players, had defeated every team across the W except for the Golden State Valkyries. So when MVP candidate Mitchell declares Indy as the most resilient team she's ever been part of, it hits in bittersweet waves. Certainly for the fans it must be exhausting. For the players, imagine how exhausting that entire ordeal is. But they're still standing. They're still standing. They're still standing. And you gotta give them credit. Not even coming down to the final game of the season. Not even the 8th seed applauded Robin. All thanks to their resilient team. Natasha Howard secured 17 points, Aliyah Boston had 12 points with 11 rebounds, and Ariel Powers added 15 points to fuel the Fever's win against Washington. But while the playoff berth is clinched, the race hasn't been completed yet. Indy's playoff seed depends upon a lot of other factors, some in their control and some not. They're most likely to face either the Atlanta Dream or the Las Vegas Aces for the first game. And Lundberg is a bit doubtful. Well, no one can help but think of the heights the team could have reached with Clark's presence. And I say that as somebody who I'm bummed about Clark because of how good I know Clark is. And what the ceiling of this team could be. Imagine if Sophie and Caitlin were available for the playoffs, even with some of the other stuff that had gone down in the midst of it. So you get that what could have been feeling, and you also get that what was lost feeling. Lundberg had also said. However, now it's time for the ultimate test. And the roster must prove that they can win against top teams without Clark and put a stop to all the what ifs.